Good evening, everyone. This is Law Committee, October 21st, 2020. I'd like to start with a roll call.
Eric Burkhalter,
Present.
Rosemary Brown,
Present.
Robert Lawson.
Present.
We have minutes from August 19th, 2020 and September 23rd, 2020 meeting that we need to read over and approve. Monica, do we have a guest tonight or not?
We do. Pete Schwagerhart is supposed to be here from NVAH Partners, but we have also Dan Ferguson from HCDC.
I see Dan. Were either one of them presenting anything?
Dan can speak to that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to necessarily present the MVAH project. I was just here to speak on the CRA that's going before council, I guess next week, and just to see if there were any questions about the CRA.
Okay, so we'll approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 23rd. I'm sorry. August
19th.
From the August 19th law meeting. Make a motion for approval.
A second. All ayes.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve? Make a motion to approve September 23rd, 2020.
I make that motion.
Second. All ayes.
Aye.
All right. So we have an agenda before us. We have a lot of legislation before us, but like I said, Monica, I was told we had a visitor or someone coming in. I know Dan is with us. And Emily, you were about to say something before we approve those minutes.
Oh, I was going to speak to, Dan mentioned the CRA agreement. I haven't seen that yet, so I don't have legislation on that yet.
Okay, Dan, did you want to table it or still speak on that?
Well, I can email it to you right now if you'd like. And basically it just authorizes Jerry to sign the agreement with MVHA. But Emily, do you want me just to send it directly to you?
You send me the CRA agreement because I haven't seen it yet. And
Okay.
Assuming council is comfortable with the contents of the agreement, I can prepare the legislation for Tuesday.
So Dan, can you give us a brief overview of what the CRA is and the agreement that's going to be coming before us when you send it to Emily?
Yeah, sure. So, so this is a commercial CRA, which is a little bit different from the residential CRAs. And the Housing Council's meeting next week actually to go over all the residential CRAs. But with the commercial CRA, there's an actual agreement that has to be signed by the village and by the applicant before the project begins. And it's reviewed on an annual basis by the TIRC. And the actual abatement has to be approved by council if it's commercial. The residential, it's just approved by the housing officer. So you guys have not seen the actual application yet for this CRA, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So I'll send all this along. I thought you guys had already been able to take a look at it. Basically, MVAH, which is being known for on this project as the Wayne Lofts LLC, they're requesting a 75% abatement for 15 years. When Jerry and I spoke, we agreed that 50% for 15 years was more reasonable and more in line with other abatements that had been given throughout the village. This is a 58 unit multifamily building, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments on Wayne Avenue, just at the intersection of Wayne and Brown Street. I think Brown Street's actually a paper street, but it's on Wayne. It's about it's about a $6.3 million project. They expect it to be completed by the end of next year. It will create 2 part-time jobs. And those are the highlights. Are you guys generally familiar with this project? I know it's been discussed probably for about the past year.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
council's familiar.
Okay. So they did get some funding from the county, and I think they were looking for funding from the state, and they just needed to be able to show sort of some local participation. So that's really the main reason for the CRA is to show that local support. So I'll go ahead and I'll send all these documents. I guess I'll send them to Emily, and maybe I'll copy Monica on them. I'm sure they were sent to Jerry, but it'll be the application, the resolution, the agreement. It'll be those 3 things. And if there's anything else you need, let me know. The school board was notified as of September 9th, both Great Oaks and Princeton. We're required to notify them of the consideration of the abatement, but we do not require their agreement, or they don't have to approve of it because it's under 50%.
Correct. Thank you for saying that, Dan. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So I'll email all the other information over to you guys. Are there any questions?
No, not at this time. I know that once you send it over to Emily, it may come before, so that's why I wanted you to speak on it tonight, because it can easily be on council floor on next Tuesday to vote on.
Okay. Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we did get some information on that. I'm gonna look back through my emails. I believe we did.
Okay. Are there any questions for Dan before we move on? Okay. We have a lot of legislation before us. I'm going to let Emily take it over, but before I let Emily take it over, just reminding the council panel and the audience that might be tuning in, if there's no objections to the legislation, it automatically goes to full council. So I'll let Emily take it over from here.
Sorry. I don't have an agenda, so I'm not sure what order you have these in. I did send all the legislation to council today, so I assume everybody has it.
Mr. Burkholder, read each one in the order.
If you just want to read the title, then I can go over it so that everyone's on the same page.
The first one is an ordinance establishing and affirming the salaries and compensation of the officers and positions in the village of Woodlawn and declaring.
Okay. This was prepared by our finance director following, I think, the special council meeting or the committee of the whole meeting. I'm not sure which one, that adjusts all the salaries in the village. As you know, the auditor of state requires us to do this through legislation, does require us to revisit this, or we should revisit it at least yearly, even if nothing changes. These new salaries will take effect on November 1st. And they also incorporate into the salaries the reduction in the pension pickups that are also will be before council next week.
Any questions or concerns about this ordinance? We'll move on to number 2. An ordinance amending the ordinance number 01-205, 01-2005, 07-2010, 06-2018, 04-2019, regarding the amount the Village of Woodlawn will pick up of the statutorily required contribution to the Ohio Public Employee Retirement System for the employees of the Village of Woodlawn pursuant to IRC 414H2 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, so I will cover this one as well as the resolution regarding the OPERS pickup together, because they are, these two pieces of legislation go together. What these two pieces of legislation do is eliminate the village's pickup of the statutory contribution to OPERS and to Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund for employees covered by those systems. Prior to these ordinances, employees who were hired before February 26 of 2019 had the village pick up 4.27% of the mandatory contribution. Back in 2019, council eliminated that pickup for new employees. And what this would do is eliminate the pickup entirely for all employees. And my understanding is that this goes hand in hand with the salary ordinance, that the salaries received additional consideration in exchange for the reduction in the pickup. I do want to point out that on the OPERS pickup, there is just one exception, and that's going to be for council members who were hired before February 26, 2019, or who took office before that date, because there's no ability to offset that reduction for those council members because council salaries can't be adjusted during a current term of office. So currently the way it's written, those are the only folks that it would not impact.
Okay. Any questions or concerns about this ordinance? The next ordinance is amending Chapter 882 of the Village of Woodlawn Code, or ordinances regarding municipal income tax.
Sure. This was an item that was identified by Rita when Rita was reviewing our income tax ordinance. Currently, the village requires all residents of Woodlawn to file a municipal income tax return, regardless of whether or not they would actually owe money on that return because they have an income tax being withheld by another municipality. There was a provision in the income tax that gave the tax administrator the ability to waive that requirement if there was some certification that the full amount of the tax owed was being withheld from another community. Rita recommended that this provision be deleted in order to stay with the village's current practice of requiring a municipal income tax return from every employee. And it also goes somewhat hand in hand with the fact that we now have the 5-year road income tax, which has pushed the income tax up slightly more than other communities anyway. So we really do need everybody to be filing a municipal income tax return.
Any questions or concerns? Go ahead, Ms. Trabue.
I just had a question when I was actually looking at and thank you for sending all the copies of the legislation, Emily. When I was looking at it, it says at the top, it says deleting section 881.08D, but then at the bottom.
Oh, I see. I see that typo. I'll correct that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, moving along. The next one is an ordinance amending appropriation for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020.
I believe on this item, as well as the other ones that Tim prepared, those were covered, I think, in finance. And those are just to make some adjustments that need to be made to the appropriations for current expenses and expenditures.
Right.
Any questions or concerns? The next is an ordinance to advance up to $59,009 from the general fund to the Hamilton County COVID-19 Relief Fund.
Yeah, and this again is in order to, I believe these funds are the county has a reimbursable CARES Act pot of money. So we need to advance that money and spend it so that we can be reimbursed.
Any questions or concerns? The next one is an ordinance to advance up to $23,860 from the general fund to the firefighters COVID-19 relief fund.
And I think that's the same situation.
Okay, and the next one is an ordinance to transfer up to $15,546.76 from the general fund to the food grant fund, drug law enforcement fund, and street and road levy fund.
Again, I think this is just another adjustment that has to be made for reimbursable grants.
Okay. Number 8, a resolution authorizing the municipal manager to enter into a 2020 CARES Act local jurisdiction agreement with the Board of County Commissioners, Hamilton County, Ohio.
Yeah, Hamilton County, as part of its share of the CARES Act funds, has allocated a percentage of that to some of the communities in the county. This agreement reflects that the village will be receiving some of those CARES Act funds from the county.
Any questions or concerns? Okay. Number 9, an amended and restated resolution with respect to the village's pickup of mandatory employee contributions from members of the Woodlawn Fire Department and the Woodlawn Police Department for the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund.
So that was the item we covered earlier along with the OPERS ordinance.
Okay. Number 10, a resolution confirming the appointment of Massimino Iona. Did I say that right, Monica? Okay. As mayor's court magistrate and authorizing the municipal manager to enter into an agreement for magistrate services.
It looks like the mayor has a question.
Go ahead, Mayor.
I have a concern about this. One that I just recently found out maybe 2 weeks, if 3 weeks ago, that there's a conflict in scheduling with Judge Gaines as well as Elizabeth Ty, who is our prosecutor. As the mayor, I think I should have some type of feedback or feed in terms of who we are bringing in here as our magistrate and our prosecutor, making sure that they have the best interest of the village of Woodlawn. And I believe I found out in the meeting on Monday that the lieutenant and chief reached out to these individuals and is ready to sign a contract. So I'm asking that we table this until I have further conversation with the village manager and the law director.
Because I'm just now finding out about it.
Well, I learned of it last week when the lieutenant reached out to me to prepare the contracts. Mayor, I was not aware that you were not part of those conversations.
At all.
And I think full council is just hearing about it. This is my first time hearing about it.
That's right.
Well, this would not go into effect until 2021 if council decides to move in this direction. So we have time to discuss it further.
But to my understanding, is there a short-term issue with their schedules, meeting our court date?
My understanding is that for the month of November, there were conflicts and that these individuals will simply be subbing for their our current magistrate and prosecutor, which is permissible.
Yes.
But their contract would not go into effect until January of next year.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with the mayor. Is the full law committee in agreement with the mayor to table this?
Oh, am I? Yes.
Okay, we'll table this until the next meeting.
And probably the one for the prosecutor as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael Keeling.
Oh.
So it may not be the last one, Emily, because I know you always have something up under your sleeve. But on our end, the last one is a resolution authorizing the municipal manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Great Parks of Hamilton County relating to the design of the shared use trail.
Okay, so almost the last one. I actually have one additional one that I got today. So the one with the for Great Parks, This is going to allow Great Parks to utilize or to incorporate as part of its design planning for recreational trail, the village's easement through the Glenwood, I'm sorry, the, what's the name of the apartment?
Fieldstone.
Yes, the Fieldstone property. We currently have an easement there for purposes of a hike bike trail. And this will allow Great Parks to include that land in their planning for a larger hike bike trail. And it's just for planning purposes and design purposes at this point in time.
Correct. But Brother Chair, if I can recall, we did as a council agree, I think that we sent some type of letter just letting them know that we supported the project. Is that correct? At some
I
point?
believe so, yes.
Okay, all right, thanks. It's a great project,
Yeah, for
great
sure.
project.
Any questions or concerns about this? Okay. Emily, so you have one more?
I have one additional one, and that is that the fire department would like to purchase an additional set of turnout gear. This is considered to be a permissible expenditure under CARES Act funds, so that there is an extra set available for turnarounds. The fire chief has indicated that the cost should come in under $50,000, but he does not have an exact proposal yet. And the CARES Act funds must be, in order to use them, must be encumbered by November 15th. So the manager and the chief are looking for authority from council to go ahead and make an expenditure up to $50,000 using CARES Act funds for the purchase of turnout gear.
Make it happen, I say.
Yeah, we talked about that in finance, didn't we?
Correct.
Mhm.
Any questions or concerns in regards to what the fire department's trying to do and the manager?
I don't have any.
Okay.
So that is all the legislation that I have.
Is there anything else to come before this board? I thought I saw some talk of executive session. Someone, go ahead, Mayor.
I only have a couple things. I want to know at what point do we begin having conversation? Got two concerns. Dairy Queen in the summertime, the traffic flow going into that business is becoming a safety issue. So not for sure how that came about, allowing that drive-through to take place, and it's so close to the road, but that's an issue that I'd like for us to have some talk about prior to the reopening of that next spring. And also on Riddle Road, as we have the sidewalks, we have an apartment building, one of the apartment buildings, who the residents are parking on the sidewalk at night in the evening. And so the safety there as well with walkers coming down that sidewalk, they have to go in the street to get around. So is there something where the owner of that property have to provide ample parking for the tenants in the back of the lot?
I don't know when that building was constructed. At the time it was constructed, it would have had to have complied with whatever the applicable zoning requirements was in terms of off-street parking.
Okay.
But that's going to be the only requirement.
Okay.
We should check to see if whether or not all the parking that it has allotted is currently available, or if there's other issues that are causing there to be a lack of parking on the property.
Okay. So does that constitute if the building sat empty for years? Are they at that point? Are they still grandfathered in?
The use is grandfathered in because it hasn't changed its use.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
But we can look at that in more detail along with our zoning folks at Hamilton County.
Okay. Okay. All right. Very well. That's all I had. Thank you, Chair.
Ms.
I have
Travitt?
one thing quickly. Just wanted to make council aware that I had a meeting this morning with the We Thrive representatives from Hamilton County Public Health and the American Heart Association. I know that the village about 10 years ago or so put in legislation to make village properties tobacco free. And so we're looking at some other opportunities to address tobacco use in Woodlawn. And a couple of the ideas that we had talked about was tobacco retailer density. So limiting the amount of tobacco retailers that we would allow in the village. There's some best practices across the country for that. And then also we briefly talked about flavor bans. So banning certain flavors, because we know that tobacco industry targets our youth with a lot of the flavors and some of the other things that we do. So obviously there's a lot of health implications with that. So I just wanted to bring that to council's attention that I'm going to be looking into that for us.
Yeah.
I think a couple of months back, Emily, I had asked you about the ban the legislation that we have presently,
Yes.
and you were going to look into it regarding.
Yes, and Monica found that today, and it's basically what Ms. Traby reported.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, concerns, or new business for this committee?
I don't have any. I'm over here reading my notes. I don't have any. Thank you, Brother Chair. Good meeting.
Yeah, in and out, started at 7:02, 7:29.
We're gonna have to take some notes from Mr. Burkhalter.
Go ahead, Ms. Shine.
One more thing, I just want y'all to know that the American Legal Publishing, the zoning and all that draft is back from adding every year. We have to add to our codified ordinances. So that is completed. But we'll be needing to start a new one for 2020 ordinances that just came through in the next month.
Monica, if you can leave my copy, I'll be by to sign legislation next Wednesday morning. If you could leave mine in your little mail slot, I'll grab it.
We got the final product that was just a draft I sent back for.
Oh, okay. When you get it.
I'll make sure you have it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Go ahead, Mr. Lawson.
I'll call you after the meeting, Doobie, because it doesn't really pertain to everybody. And then I'll get clarity on it after that.
Okay. And I just got one more thing to say. I know the mayor, he and I had a bet that I'd be finished by 7:29. And he had Monica ask that question and take me to 7:30, but that's fine. No further questions or concerns. Is there a motion for adjournment? I make a motion for adjournment.
So moved. I second.
All ayes.
Aye.
Great meeting, guys.
Mhm.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Everyone say
Bye.